1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
I'm Steve Berry, but Mike Allen has just walked in because we're in London, the only place in Britain where there can be a traffic jam at 1 AM. So I think 3 hours of me is enough.
Well, I don't know about that, but I do know that you've actually put your finger on an essential truth, that London doesn't have a rush hour.
No.
It's an on hour all the time. And I called for my cab, I ordered it, to come in earlier, and it didn't arrive, so I phoned them up and they said, "Oh, terribly sorry, it'll be 10 minutes. You know how they do that? And they say, it'll be 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where you're going. I'm going to Middlesbrough. 10 minutes. So anyway, dust and kerfuffle I've arrived. And the guy downstairs in reception, I mean, what a sweet guy. I said, I'm the 1 o'clock act. And he said, who are you? I thought, that's all I need. That's all I need, but anyway, you had a good night?
We've had a very informative and diverse night, even though I've attempted to talk about all kinds of things, and essentially we've ended up talking about one thing, but we've heard a lot of opinions expressed in an articulate, forthright and determined manner.
Right.
I feel.
Yeah.
I'm going to get on my motorbike now. The only way you can get around London and guarantee to be there on... Well, not guarantee to be there on time, but you can roughly estimate that you're going to get there on time.
10 minutes.
Is to be one of those hugely irritating motorcyclists that hustles their way to the front of every queue and squeezes through the tiniest of gaps to get where they're going. That's me.
Were you a motorcycle fan when you were a kid?
Of course I was, yeah.
Because I think people are either motorcycle or car. It doesn't matter, from the very earliest ages,
Well, I think my generation, I keep banging on about how old I am. I'm 42 years old, and I think...
You don't look it.
My generation were the last generation who automatically got on motorbikes. When we were 16, I remember virtually all the lads in my class, apart from the dweebs and the dorks and the... got on motorbikes. We got on. People will remember these. It was the golden era of the sports moped, and this will strike a chord with men of a certain age. The Yamaha FS1E. If you were 16 and you had a Yamaha FS1E back in 1979, you were something. You were somebody. But then after that, they brought in all kinds of legislation. They made the motorcycle test a lot harder to pass. The insurance went absolutely through the roof. And it's kind of discouraged young guys. It was mainly young guys. Let's be honest. It was mainly young guys getting on motorbikes. Some girls, and I've got absolutely no problem with women riding motorcycles, especially as they have to wear tight-fitting leather suits to do so. But it's again...
I said nothing.
Well, the thing is, Mike, when they talk about solving the congestion crisis in places like London and getting people to travel in a way that's more efficient and less damaging to the environment, powered two-wheelers, honestly, are the way to go.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But the problem is...
You can't argue against it.
There's not
an argument against it.
They are essentially more dangerous than other means. I mean, they are. I'm not going to cover up the fact.
They're vulnerable, let's be honest.
Yeah, you're vulnerable. And occasionally we do go a little bit faster than we're supposed to.
No, surely not. I can't believe...
Not last week, because I do feel quite guilty talking about sort of traffic congestion and how us motorcyclists have got the solution. Because last week we were the problem. Again, we're very London-centric. People in Lerwick and the Scilly Isles must be wondering what the heck we're going on about. But I was one of the people.
A traffic jam's a traffic jam.
We caused a bike traffic jam, though, last week. Anyone who was in London last Saturday, 7,000 of us, 7,000 bikers, we rode from the Ace Cafe, which is a landmark in North London. It's been a motorcyclists' meeting place since the 1950s. We rode from the Ace Cafe in North London, and we parked in the shadow of the Palace of Westminster. It was fantastic. I parked my bike on a double yellow line under a sign that said Ministry of Defence, absolutely no waiting or parking at any time.
I hope you got a photograph of it.
We had 15 policemen with us, and they did a fantastic job. 15 coppers managed to supervise 7,000 bikers. We went through every red light. all the way from Wembley into the centre of London, pipping our horns and revving our engines, and the reaction of people was it was quite different. On our way in from Wembley, coming through the less salubrious areas, everyone came out and waved and cheered at us. As soon as we got into the posh bit, all the idiots in pink corduroy trousers and cravats were mourning to the police.
You promised you wouldn't say anything about what I'm wearing.
We're mourning about the terrible inconvenience, but it was great, and it got me thinking about the nature of protest. I mean, I remember as a sort of teen, I was angry. Were you angry as a teenager?
I was startled.
No, but were you sort of ban the bomb and stop this, and did you shake your fist at authority and all that sort of thing?
No, it slightly gone away when I was a teenager, and so as a consequence, when people talk about the summer of love, 1967 and things, it had all slightly gone away a bit.
Yeah, it had sort of come back when I was a teenager, and we were the anti-Nazi League, and we wanted to ban the bomb, and all that sort of thing. But young people don't seem to be like that these days, or are they? Perhaps they are.
Maybe they can give us a call and tell us about it.
Right. Thanks, Mike.
Nice to see you. Take care. I'm Mike Allen. This is talkSPORT. Really good to be with you. I say that hand on exhaust pipe. It was a trial of, one would imagine, unimaginable stress to be with you because the cab was late. But the great news is we've got lots to talk about. If you're reaching for the phone as we speak, it's 08704 20 20 20, or you can text on 81089 or email. What happened to the good old email? Bring it back on, that's what I say. talksport.net. Right, Alex. Oh, it's Alex actually in Liverpool. Hello, Alex. Hello, Alex.
Right, have we got to fill you in on what we've been talking about, or was you
No, I was listening to it.
on the way in?
I was listening to it in the cab on the way in.
Right.
No, he just arrived late. Have you ever been late in your life? Did you get... were you late?
Many times. We all understand the mathematics of traffic jams, so...
I think we all understand the mathematics of the 10 minutes in minicab terms.
I didn't quite catch that, what you were talking about.
No, it's the concept of, you phone and say, is the car on the way, and they say it's 10 minutes.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's something that we all do. Mind you, I'll do it myself. I do it myself many times.
Oh, you drive a cab?
No, I'm a heavy goods driver.
Oh, really?
Yes,
that's serious stuff, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Should we get back to what we were talking about?
But, the way the Muslims are taking over the world.
Well, it seems that way. I've got a few comments to make. Firstly, regards to when they're all in uproar over Colin Bush, Blair terrorists and things like that, where were these same people? Where were these same people when Saddam was killing millions of Kurds? Where were the same Muslims then? Shouting about, where were they shouting about what Saddam was doing? They've been hearing anything then.
I suspect, and I just float this past you, Alec, and I don't know, we've only just met, so I don't know if you have any deep-held beliefs or anything. But I would suggest that what we're looking at here is not a misreading of Islam. I think what we're looking at here is a re-establishing, if you like, another way of presenting Islam and pressing all the hot buttons.
But this is the problem with Islam, isn't it? There's such a diverse way of looking at that religion as regards to the way fundamentalists view it, the way moderate Muslims view it. They all seem to have a different interpretation of it, and this is what's causing us many problems. I mean, you can read, for instance, in the Quran where it'll say things like, strike down the infidels with your sword. Now, the fundamentalists would take that to mean literal, whereas the moderates would say, no, that's not quite the way it's meant to be said. But, like I say, it's the interpretation of it. But as far as it goes now in this country, I can't see where we're going to end up with it all, and how there's going to be any kind of solution to it whatsoever. But what gets my back up now, Mike, is in this country now, if you're let's say if you're a black man in this country and you stand up and shout for black man's rights, you're a community leader. If you're a Muslim and you stand up and you're shouting for Muslims' rights, you're the voice of Islam. If you're a white man, you stand up for white man's rights.
And that's...
You're a racist.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you. What I'm saying to you is, what we're falling into is the trap.
Who's this?
I think everyone is falling into...
What, regards us, or...
Us?
You're talking about the indigenous people of this country?
I'm talking about the people of this country, not as a group, but as a collective. In other words, so it doesn't matter whether they're Catholic, Christian, Jewish, Islamic, whatever. It doesn't matter. What it is, we're falling vulnerable, and we're having our buttons pressed by certain members of society. And the truth of the matter is, we probably aren't 2,000 miles apart. We're probably, if you analyse it, quite close. But other people have an interest and an agenda, an interest and agenda. They have a strategy.
Why, Mike? If this is to what degree?
Well, if you set apart people, you have the advantage in taking charge of their emotions and their charges.
That's quite deep.
Yeah, but it is quite deep, isn't it? It is quite deep because you're born, you're raised, you live in a certain part of town, and that means you're a Catholic, another part of town you're a Protestant. All this stuff is deep button pushing. And then you come out of it.
We're never ever going. I mean, how these people? I mean, there was a poll done not so long ago, and I think it's something like 60 or something like 1 in 5 or 2 in 5 of them would rather have Sharia law in this country. Now, how can we possibly even think of living in a country under Sharia law where they refuse to educate women and they shoot and stone people inside football stadiums? And things. I mean, that's just totally barbaric. That just doesn't bear thinking about. That's just...
No, you're absolutely right. But doesn't that put the truth to you that this is generated, this is foreseen? It's something...
To be honest with you, Mike, I don't know what to think about it. Honest to God, I really don't know what to think about it. I try and think of an end result, and I think to myself, the way the Liberals are in uproar now about getting the troops out of Iraq and the Middle East and what have you. Now, if I look back on the Middle East and I think to myself, it's always been a battleground in the Middle East because of religion. Always has been, always will be. The Sunnis, the Shias, and what have you, the Mullahs, the Taliban. And it's always going to be that way. Now, say for instance, we took all our troops out of the Middle East, all over the Middle East. Say what? Give it 30 to 50 years, and guaranteed 100% they'll fire nuclear weapons at each other. And that is a fact.
It's interesting to talk to you. Thanks very much, Alex. Thank you. You're listening to talkSPORT. I'm Mike Allen, albeit the late Mike Allen, 08704 20 20 20. Or you can text on 81089 or send an email to talksport.net. That'll be the one. It's got to have Godwin with us. Hello, Godwin.
Oh, hi.
Hi, how are you? In Leicestershire?
Yes.
Well, that's a lovely piece of the world, isn't it?
Oh, well, it's a place to live.
It's a place to live. He said disparagingly, yes.
Yes, I'd like to comment on the Pope's lecture. And the fact that it seems to me that most people who have heard talk about it, or even in the media, seem not to have actually read the context of his speech. Mm-hmm. And I was interested to note that somebody rang in before the news who apparently had read what the Pope said, but who seemed to have missed the point altogether. So if I could just briefly state what I understood from what I read. The Pope's lecture was about the relationship between reason and faith. That essentially is what it was about. And he's making the point that in this world where science seems to have come to the fore, and we are all aware of the benefits of science and the sort of rational thinking that science involves, we all tend to think if something is not scientific, then it's not valid. It's got to fit within reason and science, etc., etc. And to illustrate the point, he made reference to this quote that seemed to have caused so much trouble, or, well, debate at least, that this emperor said that that Muhammad brought to this world nothing but evil, really, in that in trying to spread religion by the sword, that is not a godly thing to do. That's contrary to the nature of God. And in this reference that he made, the emperor was talking to somebody else who apparently had a different view. But this different view is not expressed. Somehow I've not heard anybody talk about this. The other side of the argument is that God does not fit into reason. God is beyond reason. So things that we think of as being reasonable perhaps doesn't apply to God.
I think what you've done is put your finger on an essential truth here, that mankind, whatever their beliefs, mankind works in the parameters of mankind's logic.
Right.
Take that out of the loop and say, as you've just said, Godwin, this is not a mankind framework of logic.
Yes.
And then suddenly, various aspects of mankind's conflict start to come into concept. You start to see them, and you actually, even if you don't want to, you start to see them in a logic, but not a mankind logic.
Right. And so this was the essence of what he was saying, that that God does not conform to the space that logic defines. And so to act in what man would consider illogical in relation to God might actually be valid. So in actual fact, the argument that he was making was a support of the Muslimic stance. He's saying that not because we think it's barbaric to do this or to act in this way in the name of God, it doesn't mean that there's no validity to it. And the conclusion of his argument was that while it's important that we retain our sense of logic and reason, we have to embrace the fact that there are things that logic and reason cannot reach. And that to a certain extent, this is what the Muslims are doing. They are taking religion into a realm that perhaps a lot of us don't think about or understand. So basically, the essence of what he was saying was, in one sense, in support of Muhammad and this tendency to perhaps use violence to spread their religion. But having said all of that, I suppose in some sort of defense of what the Pope said, I still find it a bit curious that he said it, because I would think that somebody of his intellect and knowledge would realize that what he was going to say would cause the very thing that he's talking about, where logic no longer comes into play. And
you know, there's a concept that has drifted in and out, since the 30s and probably before the 30s. And my microphone just just excuse me, Godwin, just doing a bit of DIY here. If you work on the concept of division of people, and if you have the edge, if you can force people to think in a diverse way, then you get them on the left foot, as the expression goes. And I suspect that there's not really too much space between many of the major issues we've got at the moment. But what I suspect we're suffering from is the way they are presented.
Exactly.
So that the essential truth is there beneath and we were talking about very important issues. The essential truth is there beneath, but it's the gloss, the glitz, the sheen, whatever you want to call it, that sits over and above it. That, I think, is the most dangerous thing. That's the dangerous thing. That's the thing that motivates people to go out and create very socially unacceptable acts.
Well, regarding religion, the one thing that I would say on that is that I find the word belief or believe a very dangerous word, because to me, to believe something means you don't actually know. When you know something, you know it. And if you believe, then you could be wrong. But
already you're starting to get to my way of thinking.
Yeah, but people seem to move belief from, instead of recognizing that, oh, I could be wrong here, belief seem to take on a firmness that people are ready to go to war over. And I think if people should sort of be aware of the difference between belief and knowledge, then, perhaps we'll get along a bit better.
The interesting concept that you've once again unerringly stabbed is the truth of the whole issue. It's about belief. It's about conviction.
Mm.
And as soon as you take that out of it, because last night we were talking, George, I'm talking to George, my producer. George, last night we were talking about belief, weren't we? We were talking about that essential conviction.
Yes.
And it's risen up again today.
I know, they just can't stop talking about
it. The truth of the matter is, though, we recognise it. We see it as a regular thing in our lives. It's good to talk to you, Godwin. Somebody said to me ages back, and I mentioned this the other day, and I had a call from a friend of mine today who said, I heard you say this on the radio, that if you take the letters of your name, you can actually make out and make words up from the letters of your name. And it actually gives you an insight as to what your past was, past lives. And I just looking at your name on the screen in front of me, and it says Godwin. Good.
Well,
God will win out.
Sorry?
God will win out.
Well, yes, to some extent, I am a little bit fascinated myself by my name, but that's what my parents gave me at birth, and in fact, I let into a secret.
This is not the place to say I'm going to let you into a secret, because I cannot guarantee that the most listened to overnight show. You can.
Okay, I won't.
You won't?
No, I won't.
Godwin, it's a pleasure, lovely to talk to you, and hopefully it won't be the first time.
Okay.
Take
Thank
care.
you very much.
Bye. I'm Mike Allen. This is talkSPORT. We're talking about events that have occurred over the last 24 hours. But one of the events that's occurred in the last 24 hours, which has become major unacceptable, is the 30 quid for the television. I mean, what do they do for that? How can they justify another 30 quid? And you might be thinking to yourself, oh, no. 30 quid is a soft option. The real deal was they wanted, because we're going to be paying 162 or something now. The real deal is that the BBC wanted 180. They wanted 180. They know no mercy. For a lot of people, watching TV is an enjoyable, non-addictive form of entertainment. I'm going to talk to Mo in just a moment.
On 1089 and 1053 AM and DAB Digital Radio, talkSPORT.
I'm Mike Allen, and delighted to have Mo from Essex. Hello, Mo.
Hiya.
Hiya. It's very interesting that you're born, or you live calling me from Malden, Maldon. My grandfather used to have 3 or 4 shops in Malden.
Really?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
I don't know.
Oh, right. Well, it couldn't have been far, because we're not a very big town.
No, I mean, this is absolutely years ago, obviously, you know, and he was the first guy in the area to have a Model T Ford.
Really?
Which is very old. So that must have been, I don't know, about 20s or something, I suppose.
I bet it was black. But you can get them in every colour.
No, I remember you can have any colour you like as long as it's black.
I actually still run an old car myself. But
do you?
Yeah, I do.
What do you run?
An old Rover 2000.
Do you? I always thought that they were slightly in front of their time. They were because they came out in the 60s, didn't they?
Yeah, it was the first car to ever win. You started me off on something now, which I wasn't going to talk about.
Oh no!
No, you have, but it won the first car of the year award.
Yeah, I used to have one of those, but the V8.
Yeah, I don't have the V8 because I'd be a bit dangerous.
Oh well, I was dangerous, you know, and.
I'm not that. Well, I can be, but not in the car. But no, I've got the baby of them all. I've got the Rover 2000.
But it's such a great shape. It was really, it was something out of Thunderbirds, wasn't
Beautiful.
it?
Absolutely.
But that's not why you called me, is it?
Sorry?
That's not why you called me.
Well, no, but I'd rather talk about the Rover 2000, but we're not talking...
Okay, we'll talk about the Rover 2000.
We're not talking about the Rover... If you ever talk about the Rover 2000, I will ring again, because I love them to bits, and I own one, and I will never get rid of it. But...
Yes.
Actually, I was going to call you about the TV licence, but before I do that... what you were talking to Godwin earlier about... excuse me, I don't know where that's going, because you said Godwin, you know? I wonder where my name comes from. That's another issue.
Eric.
Sorry?
Eric. Oh, sorry, you said not to say your name. No,
Eric.
I'm putting it there.
Stop it. No, whatever the Pope come up with, you know, I have personally lost faith.
You've lost your faith?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I was raised a Roman Catholic.
Uh-huh.
Excuse me. I was raised a Roman Catholic, and Roman Catholics were taught to believe that, if you like, the meek will inherit the earth, etc. Let's all be meek and mild, and, you know.
Yeah.
I went to a convent school, etc. But do you see the Pope being meek and mild? I mean, dripping in gold, for God. You know? Sorry. Do you know what I mean?
When I was a kid, I went to Rome. It was called a school trip.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing was we met up with a bunch of Italian guys about the same age as us, you know, about 12, 13 or something like that. And they really put a new slant on charity for us, because they showed us when we went round with them at night, and we went to the Trevi Fountain as well, and they used to collect the money out of the Trevi Fountain and out of the charity boxes for the poor. They used to steal it.
Really?
And I said, but you can't, it's for the poor. And he said, we are the poor. And if you stop and think about it, there's a logic there.
Yeah, well, I guess so, but
So you lost your faith?
Excuse me. Yeah, I did. I tell you for why I did, because I was raised a Roman Catholic until I lost my parents when I was a kiddie, but that's it. And, you know, it was all to be, all to do with, you know, don't strive for riches, because that is not the way to heaven, etc.
Sure.
But then, whenever I see the Pope, he's dripping in gold, and I suddenly thought, we're meant to be meek and mild, but...
Meek, mild and rich?
Well, rich in another way, you know.
Yeah.
But not in...
It is an interesting concept that you paint a picture of, because if you talk about the way the Pope appeals, I would imagine, to children, because they have they have tremendous insight, because they see straight through all the nonsense and they see the real deal. They would say exactly what you've said. The meek shall inherit the earth, apart from the Pope, because he's got loads of gold.
Yeah, and
he's blinged out.
Found it, you know, and I think that was when I just thought, hang on, what was was all that about that I went to Sunday school for, you know, and believed in, you know, that don't strive for riches because, what is it, a rich man will never enter the gates of
It's
heaven.
easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than a rich man to enter heaven. The eye of the needle was actually a gateway.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was called the eye of the needle because it was skinny. Did I get that right?
My faith, but actually I didn't ring you about that. I rang you about this stupid TV licence.
The TV licence.
God,
They wanted us to pay £180. That's a terrible old cough, isn't it? How long have you been smoking?
sorry?
How long have you been smoking?
I've got asthma.
It's asthma, is it?
Mm-hmm.
You don't smoke?
I've got asthma.
Okay. We're going to draw a veil across that. We're not going to admit to it. We're just going to say... Yes.
we?
Yes.
All I
Whatever.
was going to say was I think it's outrageous, and I think James Whale will have a lot to say about that.
Have a lot to say. He'll be incandescent.
I know he will. I can't wait to hear
Incandescent.
him.
Because I saw him the other day because we used to work